The Tale of Tam and Cam, a Vietnamese Cinderella story. Once upon a time, in a faraway village in Vietnam, there lived two stepsisters named Tam and Cam. Tam was the elder sister, gentle, kind, and hardworking. Cam, the younger one, was spoiled and cunning. Tam's mother died when she was still very young. Her father remarried, hoping to give Tam a family again. But after her father passed away, Tam was left alone with her stepmother and stepsister. The stepmother was cruel and made Tam do all the housework, cleaning, cooking, fetching water, and caring for the animals. Meanwhile, Cam never lifted a finger and spent her days playing and wandering wherever she pleased. One day, the stepmother told both girls to go to the river and catch fish. She promised a reward to the one who caught the most. Eager to please, Tam worked hard under the hot sun, filling her basket with fish. Cam, on the other hand, played along the riverbank catching nothing. When the sun was about to set, Cam sneaked up to Tam and said sweetly, "Sister Tam, your hair is so dirty. Why don't you go wash it in the river? I'll watch over your basket for you." Trusting her sister, Tam did as Cam said. The moment Tam dipped her hair in the water, Cam stole all the fish and ran home. When Tam came back, she found her basket empty. She sat by the riverbank and cried and cried. Suddenly, a gentle old man appeared. It was the spirit of Buddha, or Boot, who always looked after kind-hearted souls. He asked Tam why she was crying. When she told him, he comforted her and found one little fish left in her basket. He told Tam to take the fish home, put it in the well behind the house, and feed it every day. "Remember," Boot said, "call it with these words. Little fish, come eat my golden rice and silver rice. Don't eat the stale food of others." Tam did exactly as she was told. Each day, she saved her best rice for the fish, who grew bigger and bigger. But soon, her stepmother grew suspicious. She ordered Cam to spy on Tam. When they discovered Tam's secret friend, they tricked Tam into leaving home and caught the fish. The cruel stepmother and Cam cooked it for dinner. When Tam returned to feed her fish and saw only blood in the well, she wept. Again, Boot appeared and told her to collect the fish bones, place them in 4 small jars, and bury them under the 4 corners of her bed. With hope in her heart, Tam did exactly that. Not long after, the king announced a grand festival in the kingdom. Everyone, rich or poor, was invited to dress in their finest clothes and gather at the palace to celebrate. Tam dreamed of seeing the festival, but her stepmother wanted to keep her home. So, the cruel woman mixed a big basket of rice with husks and grains, then told Tam, "If you want to go to the festival, pick out every grain of good rice from this pile. If you finish in time, you may go." Of course, the task was impossible alone. Tam sat crying beside the rice until Boot appeared once more. He called a flock of sparrows down from the sky. In the blink of an eye, the tiny birds sorted the rice for Tam. Tam was overjoyed, but then she looked down at her ragged clothes. How could she go to the festival dressed like this? Again, Boot appeared and whispered, "Dig up the 4 jars buried under your bed." Tam opened the first jar. Inside was a stunning silk dress fit for a princess. The second jar held a pair of delicate embroidered shoes. The third jar revealed a tiny horse that turned into a strong steed when placed on the ground. The fourth jar held a royal saddle. Dressed in her shimmering gown and riding her magical horse, Tam set off to the festival. On the way, she crossed a muddy stream and accidentally lost one of her shoes. She kept the other safe in her scarf and hurried to the palace grounds, blending in with the crowds. Meanwhile, the king's royal elephants came to the same muddy spot where Tam's shoe lay. Strangely, the elephants refused to move forward until the king's men found the tiny, beautiful shoe. The king held it up and declared, "Whoever can wear this shoe shall become my queen." Women from all over the kingdom came to try on the shoe, but no one's foot fit. Even Cam and her mother came forward and failed. Finally, Tam stepped up. Her stepmother mocked her, calling her worthless, but when Tam slipped her foot into the shoe, it fit perfectly. Tam revealed the second shoe she had kept hidden, proving she was the mysterious girl. Overjoyed, the king chose Tam as his queen and took her to live with him at the palace. But the story did not end there. On the anniversary of her father's death, Tam asked the king to let her return home to tend his grave. Her stepmother and Cam, full of envy, saw their chance. The stepmother sweetly asked Tam to climb a tall betel nut tree to pick the best fruits for the offering. When Tam climbed up high, the cruel woman secretly cut the tree down. Tam fell and drowned in the pond below. To hide their crime, the stepmother dressed Cam in Tam's royal clothes and sent her to the palace in Tam's place. The king was heartbroken but said nothing. Tam's spirit could not rest. She transformed into a beautiful golden bird that followed the king everywhere, singing sweetly. When Cam saw the bird, she killed it and buried its feathers. From those feathers, 2 lush trees grew in the palace garden. The king often rested under their cool shade. Cam, frightened by the trees, cut them down and made them into a weaving loom. But whenever Cam sat at the loom, it whispered in a haunting voice, reminding her of what she had done. Terrified, she burned the loom to ashes. From the ashes, a single shining fruit grew, a fragrant golden persimmon. An old woman passing by picked it up and kept it in her basket. At night, while she slept, Tam emerged from the fruit to clean the house and cook delicious meals for the old lady. One day, the old woman pretended to leave, but secretly returned to catch Tam stepping out of the fruit. She lovingly tore open the fruit's peel and held Tam tight, calling her the daughter she never had. One day, the king stopped by the old woman's tea stall and saw the betel leaves shaped just like Tam used to prepare them. When he asked, the old woman introduced Tam, alive and well once more. Overjoyed, the king brought Tam back to the palace. This time, Tam told him the whole truth. The king punished Cam and her cruel mother, driving them away from the kingdom. Legend says a storm struck them down on their way home. And so, Tam and the king lived on together. Proof that no matter how many times evil tries to win, goodness and kindness always find their way back to the light. A timeless Vietnamese tale, where kindness and patience always triumph over cruelty. The Bamboo with 100 Joints. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a rich old man who was famous throughout the region for owning countless rice fields, barns full of grain, and piles of money. Yet people didn't admire him because he was stingy and greedy, always scheming to squeeze labor from others to make himself even richer. In the same village, there was a poor farmer, strong, honest, and hardworking, who toiled day after day just to earn a simple meal. Seeing that the young farmer was honest and diligent, the rich man hired him to plow his fields and take care of his rice paddies, hoping to harvest more grain than ever. One day, afraid to pay wages, the old rich man came up with a cunning plan to deceive him. He called the young farmer over, spoke sweetly, and promised, "My son, if you work hard for me for 3 years, I will marry my daughter to you." Trusting by nature, the farmer believed him right away. He thought that as long as he worked hard, he would soon have a gentle wife, a warm family, and finally escape his life of poverty. Without a hint of doubt, he agreed to work for the rich man for 3 long years. During those years, rain or shine, the young farmer tirelessly plowed the fields, turning the soil deep and wide, tending the rice so it would grow tall and healthy. Season after season, the paddies yielded heavy golden grains, filling the courtyards and barns to overflowing. The old man, already wealthy, became even wealthier. But in his heart, he was still scheming, never intending to keep his promise of marrying his daughter to the poor farmer. When the agreed day came, the old man pretended to be cheerful and called the young farmer to him again. "My son, I keep my word. But before the wedding, you must go into the forest and find me a bamboo with 100 joints. We'll use it to make chopsticks for the entire village to feast at the wedding." The young farmer believed every word, picked up his machete, and headed straight into the forest, without suspecting for a moment that he was being deceived once more. Alone in the deep woods, he searched clumps of bamboo one after another, carefully cutting down each stalk and counting the joints. But even the longest stalks only had 40, 50 joints at most, never a full 100, like the old man demanded. Sweat soaked his clothes. His hands and feet swelled and bled from the bamboo thorns scratching his skin. But he didn't give up, determined to find the right one. Yet no matter how much he chopped and counted, the magical bamboo with 100 joints remained out of reach. As dusk fell and the forest grew silent, the young farmer sat down beside his pile of discarded bamboo stalks and wept bitterly. 3 years of hard work and loyalty, wasted on an empty promise. He buried his face in his hands, alone in the darkening woods with no one to turn to. Just then, an old man appeared. His hair and beard were silver white, his skin rosy and healthy, his gentle eyes radiating warmth as he walked calmly toward the farmer. The old man asked softly why he was crying. The young farmer stood up, bowed respectfully, and told him the whole story, from the 3 years of hard labor to the deceitful demand for the impossible bamboo. Hearing it all, the old man nodded and smiled kindly. "Don't cry, my child. Bring me exactly 100 bamboo joints, and I will help you." Overjoyed, the farmer chopped more bamboo until he had exactly 100 joints and laid them before the old man. Stroking his beard, the old man told him, "Remember these words. Say, 'Join together, join together, join together' 3 times, and the joints will stick together to form a single bamboo stalk with 100 joints. If you ever need to separate them again, say, 'Come apart, come apart, come apart.'" The young farmer did as instructed. Amazingly, the separate bamboo joints shook and pulled together, fusing into one long, seamless stalk, exactly 100 joints long, smooth and sturdy. When he looked up to thank the old man, he had vanished into the forest like a drifting mist. Carrying the miraculous bamboo, the young farmer hurried back to the village, his heart full of hope that justice would finally be served. But as he approached, he froze in disbelief. The rich man's courtyard was bustling with people. Pigs and cows had been slaughtered, sticky rice steamed, wine poured. There was a grand wedding feast underway. Through the gate, he saw the rich man's daughter, who he believed would be his bride, now dressed in a bridal gown, sitting beside another wealthy young man. Drums and gongs boomed, laughter and chatter filled the air. But no one noticed the poor farmer standing silently outside the gate. He realized the bitter truth. His 3 years of sweat and loyalty had been traded for a false promise. But instead of weeping, he quietly dragged the bamboo stalk into the courtyard and called out for the old rich man to come out. Seeing him, the old man sneered mockingly. "So you're back? Where's the bamboo with 100 joints? I told you to bring me a single bamboo stalk, not a pile of useless pieces." Without replying, the farmer calmly set down the bamboo joints and softly muttered, "Join together, join together, join together." In an instant, the joints fused into a single tall bamboo stalk with 100 shining joints. The guests gasped in astonishment, and the rich old man stepped forward, curiosity gleaming in his greedy eyes. He reached out to touch the bamboo, but the young farmer whispered again, "Join together, join together, join together." Immediately, the old man's hand stuck fast to the bamboo. He tugged and pulled, but could not free himself. A few of his wealthy cronies rushed over to help, but the farmer calmly said again, "Join together, join together, join together." One by one, they too were glued to the bamboo, tangled up and crying out in shame and fear. The villagers crowded around, whispering to each other with satisfaction, "Serves him right for being so deceitful." Panicking, the old man pleaded desperately, "Please, my son, I admit my wrongdoing. I swear I will marry my daughter to you, just as I promised. Please free us. We will never cheat anyone again." Seeing that the whole village was watching and the old man was truly frightened, the young farmer calmly nodded and recited, "Come apart, come apart, come apart." At once, the bamboo loosened its grip, releasing the old man and his cronies, who fell to the ground, red-faced and trembling, too ashamed to utter a word. A proper wedding was held for the young farmer, with the rich man's daughter standing by his side this time as his true bride. The entire village came to celebrate, praising the young man's honesty and perseverance. He and his wife lived happily together, working hard, growing prosperous, and earning the love and respect of everyone around them. As for the old rich man, he never dared to deceive anyone again, remembering the lesson he had learned the hard way. And so the tale of the bamboo with 100 joints became a story passed down through generations, reminding all that those who are greedy and deceitful will face their comeuppance, while the honest and hardworking will always be rewarded in the end. The Legend of the Betel and Areca. Once upon a time in ancient Vietnam, there lived 2 brothers named Tan and Lang. They were born so much alike that even their own family often couldn't tell them apart. Their faces, their voices, their ways, all like mirror images of each other. Their father was a giant of a man, the tallest and strongest in the whole region. Long ago, King Hung, one of Vietnam's legendary rulers, called him to the royal capital of Phong Chau and rewarded him with a special honor. From that day on, the king gave him the name Cao, which means tall, and so the family carried the surname Cao ever since. Tan and Lang grew up in the warm care of their parents. But time passed, and like all stories, sorrow came. When the boys were still young, their parents passed away, leaving the two brothers alone in the world. But their love for each other only grew stronger. They were inseparable. Wherever Tan went, Lang would follow. Whatever Tan did, Lang would do too. In good times or bad, they never left each other's side, not even for a single step. One day, before he died, their father made a wish for Tan. He asked a wise hermit named Master Lu to take Tan as his student. Lang, the younger brother, couldn't bear to stay behind alone. He begged the hermit to let him join too, and so the two brothers stayed together as always, learning side by side. Master Lu was not only wise, but also had a beautiful daughter, just about the same age as Tan and Lang. She was kind, clever, and often watched the brothers from afar. But there was a problem. They looked so alike that no one could ever tell who was the older brother and who was the younger. One day, the girl came up with a little trick to find out. She waited until the brothers were very hungry after their lessons, and then she brought out just one bowl of rice porridge and a single pair of chopsticks. Hiding behind the wall, she watched closely. Sure enough, when the food was set before them, one brother gently pushed the bowl toward the other, insisting he eat first. In that small, simple gesture, she knew who was the elder. It was Tan, the brother who always gave the best to Lang. The young girl and Tan began to spend more time together. A glance here, a smile there, secret talks under the moonlight. Before long, their hearts belonged to each other. Master Lu, the kind old hermit, was happy to see his daughter in love with Tan, the gentle, caring elder brother. He gave them his blessing, and soon they were married in a small, simple ceremony under the shade of the forest trees. After the wedding, Tan and his bride moved into a new house nearby. But of course, Lang came with them, because the brothers could not bear to live apart. At first, they were still as close as ever. But as the days passed, things slowly changed. Tan now had a wife to care for, new worries on his mind, new warmth to hold at night. Little by little, the time he once gave his brother turned into time for his wife. He didn't notice, but Lang felt it deep inside, a quiet hurt that grew with each passing day. Lang sat alone many nights, remembering how his brother once held his hand, shared every meal, never let him feel lonely. Now, watching Tan and his wife laugh and whisper in their own world, Lang's heart ached. He wondered if his brother had forgotten him, if love for a wife had pushed away love for a brother. In that quiet house, under the same roof, 3 people lived, but one heart felt more alone than ever before. One evening, Tan and Lang went together up the hills to tend their fields. They worked side by side all day, like they used to when they were young boys. By the time they finished, the sun had dipped behind the mountains, and the stars were waking in the sky. On the way home, Lang walked a little faster and reached the house before his brother. Tan's wife, seeing someone coming through the door in the dusk, thought it was Tan. She ran to greet him, and without looking too closely, she threw her arms around him. Lang froze. He stood there, stiff in her embrace, shocked and embarrassed. At that moment, Tan stepped in through the doorway. He saw his wife holding Lang, and jealousy flashed like a blade through his heart. He said nothing, but from that night on, Tan's eyes were cold when he looked at Lang. His voice was distant. The house felt smaller, tighter, filled with hurt feelings that no one spoke aloud. Lang could not stand it. He was angry at his brother for not trusting him, ashamed for something that wasn't his fault, and heartbroken that the love they once shared had turned so bitter. So, just before dawn, while the world was still dark and quiet, Lang packed nothing. Not a blanket, not a piece of bread. He slipped out of the house and walked away without a single word. He walked and walked for days, through forests and hills, until he came to the bank of a great river, wide and fierce with rushing water. He stood there, staring at the other side, knowing he would never cross it. knowing he would never go back. He sat down on the muddy bank, hid his face in his hands, and wept. He wept for his brother, for the love they lost, for the home that no longer felt like home. He cried until night fell and the stars shone again. He cried until dawn returned. And as the morning sun rose over the river, Lang's sorrow turned him to stone, forever waiting, forever alone by the water's edge. Days passed, but Tan's heart could not rest. He waited for Lang to come home, but no footsteps returned. He asked the neighbors, searched the hills, but there was no sign of his brother anywhere. Deep inside, Tan knew why Lang had gone. It was his own coldness that had driven his brother away. Regret filled him like poison. He left his wife behind and set out to find Lang, following every trail, calling out his name in the wind. He searched the forests, the fields, the hidden paths they once played on as boys, until at last, he reached the same riverbank where Lang had wept his heart dry. There, Tan found only a lonely stone by the rushing water. Somehow, he understood. This was his brother. Tan sank to his knees beside the stone, hugged it as if it were flesh and blood, and wept. He wept until his own life faded away, and where he died, a tall, slender tree sprouted, its trunk reaching straight to the sky. That was the kaw tree, rising beside the stone that was Lang. Back at home, Tan's wife waited and waited, but the house stayed silent. Her husband did not come back. Neither did Lang. Her days turned to nights, her nights to tears. In the end, she left everything behind and followed the same path, until she, too, came to the riverbank. When she saw the stone and the tree beside it, she knew the truth without a word. She knelt there and cried until her body melted into the earth. From where she lay, a soft green vine grew, climbing up the tall tree, wrapping around it tenderly. That was the tro vine, clinging forever to the kaw tree. The three of them never parted again. Stone, tree, and vine, bound together by love, sorrow, and loyalty. Years later, when drought came, the whole land dried up, except for that stone and the two strange plants beside it, still green and alive. King Hung himself came to see this wonder. He tasted the nut of the kaw tree, the leaves of the tro vine, and a bit of lime. Alone, they tasted sharp and strange, but when he chewed them all together, the bitterness turned sweet and warm, and the juice stained his lips red, like the blood that bound family together. The king was deeply moved. He told his people, "This is a sign of true love and loyalty. Husband and wife, brother and brother, all tied by one heart." From that day on, he ordered that every wedding, every important bond, should be sealed with tro cow and lime, so people would always remember the bond that never fades. And that is why, to this day, Vietnamese families share the Betel leaf and Areca nut at weddings and gatherings. A simple taste that carries an old story of family, love, and a promise that even time cannot break.